The feudal era of Japan was marked by a complete lack of central imperial authority. Though the emperorship never went away completely, it held very little power and had no sway over the major events of the country. Instead, politics in Japan was characterized by bands of warriors that swore allegiance to various provincial families and clans. Warfare was rampant in the period, especially immediately after the collapse of central authority. Military ruling families were typically headed by a daimyo, a man who was both commander-in-chief and family patriarch at the same time. Daimyos were constantly trying to expand the territory under their control, or Han. Though daimyos and their forces were in theory beholden to the emperor, in practice the only position which held any sway with the daimyos was the supreme military commander of the Kamakura government, the shogun. In addition, the period's constant warfare forged a large warrior class known as bushi, or samurai, who lived by the code of Bushido. Bushido involved complex rituals and rites that directed how each warrior should act and live. At the heart of Bushido was service to one's lord and a willingness to do whatever was asked of the warrior without question, including laying down one's life. Over time, the constant warfare fragmented Japan politically. The strongest daimyos gained hegemony over their rivals and consolidated their territory, while at the same time maneuvering politically with other daimyos and the shogun. The more powerful shoguns emerged later in the feudal era. Periods of warfare and instability dominated the Japanese political landscape for centuries. The Middle Ages in Japan is separated into two eras, the pre-feudal or classical era and the feudal era. The classical era began soon after Prince Shotoku introduced Confucian ideals and practices into Japanese government. Shortly after this, a mid-7th century coup and the Taika reforms consolidated political authority in the Japanese emperor. Much of the classical period was relatively peaceful, and cultural pursuits like poetry and literature flourished. However, in the 12th century, the central authority of the imperial throne waned, and military buildup in the provinces led to civil strife, rebellion, and eventually a rival government set up by a military leader, the first shogun. Regionally powerful families developed into daimyos, Japan's version of the feudal lord, that maintained large samurai forces whose loyalty is codified in the Bushido code. The warfare led to a politically fragmented Japan that existed for several centuries.